That is horrifying. Why would anyone think that's an appropriate way to respond to a child's dance? Welcome back to my series, Dance Mums Unedited. In this series, I talk about the production notes for Dance Mums, and I compare the episode to what happened in the notes that the producers wrote. These notes were written to producers and sold to a Reddit user called Kitty Hawk Criminal, who then scanned them and uploaded them so that we can read them. And I'm going to compare the episode and the notes, see where things seem a bit different, and things that were just left out of episodes altogether. Because there was more to this episode than the producers cared to show. I will have a link in the description box that will take you to a PDF of these particular production notes so you can read through them for yourself. So let's jump into it. The week begins with Abby alone in the studio filming Pyramid. It's interesting that the mums and kids were absent because this means Abby could have said whatever she wanted about the kids without their mums being able to defend them. Once this is complete, Abby and Melissa chat at the front desk about studio matters. Melissa's worried about finding money for costumes, but Abby's more preoccupied about Christy's behaviour during the previous week. After their chat, Melissa mutters under her breath, "She drives me nuts." Not long after this, Kathy and Vivi arrive at the studio. Melissa greets them, asking how long Vivi has been dancing. Vivi says since she was 18 months old. Apparently Vivi skipped school to be at the ALDC that day. Once Kathy gets Vivi changed into her dance clothes, Melissa warns them to put Vivi's hair in a ponytail, because otherwise Abby might flip out. She also tells them that Vivi doesn't have the right shoes, because what they have is what Abby calls cheaters. While they wait for Abby, Kathy tells Vivi to mention that she goes to a private school. She also points out some of the dancers on Abby's wall who she has seen dance before. Abby greets the pair, and they confirm that they have definitely met before, which is in sharp contrast to what the show portrayed. As Vivi is demonstrating her moves, Abby calls her out on constantly looking at Kathy. Kathy reinforces this, telling Vivi to stop looking at her. Once the audition is complete, Abby tells Kathy that she might be able to put Vivi in the group, but warns her that the other mums might get upset about her joining so quickly. Then they repeat the whole audition, probably to make sure that they had enough footage for the episode. Heading back to the front desk, Kathy is given a bunch of paperwork, including a studio guide. Melissa tells her that the guide is not allowed to leave the studio. This really makes me wonder what was in that document. I mean, it could just be a simple case of not wanting other dance studios to have access to it, or there could be something more secretive at play here. Then the rest of the team shows up. Kelly is upset because Abby told her kids that they were wearing the wrong thing. She insists that she was not contacted about what to wear. My best guess for what happened here is that everyone else was told to wear black leotards, which is why pretty much everyone but Brooke is wearing a black leotard. Maybe Paige was able to fit in a black leotard that one of the other girls had, maybe they had a spare. And since Brooke is a lot older and probably taller than the other girls at this stage, they probably couldn't find one for her to wear, so she ended up having to wear blue. There's no evidence for this in the text, but it's sort of just my best guess. Then Kelly and Christy talk about the kids and say that they wish they had their bodies. Along with Melissa, they discuss liposuction, dieting in order to wear a bikini on vacation, taking horse hormones, and waxing as a form of, quote, Chinese torture. Christy even talks about getting fat taken from her butt and injected into her face. I find it quite disturbing just how intense, how frequent, and how early on these sort of body criticisms, appearance critiques, how early they started. The environment was toxic enough without all this shame and negativity about appearances, and it couldn't have been good for kids that young. Then they film Pyramid again, this time with the mums and girls present. After discussing the previous week, Abby chastises Nia for wearing a bracelet. Back up in the viewing room, Holly says that Nia felt left out. This is when Maddie starts to feel sick, crying and rushing to the bathroom. Maddie says that she doesn't want Abby to be mad at her. During Maddie's absence, Abby tells the story of a time when she performed on stage whilst someone backstage held a bucket for her. Melissa tells Maddie to head back into the studio just to sit and watch, but Maddie heads back in and immediately begins dancing. Chloe sweetly comforts her. 2 days later, Kelly and Christy hang out at Kelly's house, stoning costumes. You can find this released as a bonus scene online. They talk about how Maddie got her costume professionally done. Kelly is mad that Abby chose to have Maddie's costume professionally stoned when she and Paige are the same size. Christy says that Maddie and Mackenzie get free privates because Melissa works at the front desk. They gossip about how Melissa orders lots of takeout and has a maid that her boyfriend doesn't know about. They say that Melissa called the dance teachers to tell them that the other kids pick on her daughters. They think she did it to make the other kids look bad. Christy says that she doesn't think she can be in the room for electricity. She tells Kelly that Abby sent her an email telling her to pull Chloe out of school early to get a solo private. As they discuss the class schedules, Kelly claims that she never gets the emails for the group. She calls Melissa and tells her to pass them on to her. Melissa informs them that Abby had been using the Wi-Fi at McDonald's to send out her emails. Just over an hour later, Chloe and Christy head into the studio for Chloe to have a solo private. Gianna and Abby are trying to sort out the music situation, since this was a solo that Chloe already knew before the show, but they needed to switch the music to be copyright free. As the girls rehearse electricity again, the mums say that it looks like their girls are on poles. Upstairs, Christy is upset about Chloe's music. She is convinced that the week will be all about how fabulous Maddie is. She begins to vent about her business because one of her employees didn't show up and she was very stressed about it. This is when Christy starts to break down under the pressure of trying to keep everything together. When Chloe heads back into the studio after chatting with her mum, she is clearly upset. Nia kindly checks in on her. The crew get her to do an interview on the fly, and Chloe asks, does she like Maddie better than me? The next day, the team gets on the bus and heads to the competition. Within the first 6 minutes of the journey, Kathy gets bus sick. Holly is working on her laptop, presumably on work for her doctorate, which she was completing at this point in the show. Kelly is still rhinestoning because she has to do 2 costumes. Christy has to start doing Chloe's makeup for the competition. Melissa gets Maddie ready, although in reality she was not performing her solo until the following day. The producers wanted to make it look like Maddie and Chloe were competing directly against each other, but in reality they were actually competing in separate age divisions. Melissa even told Maddie that she had 30 minutes until she needed to be on stage. Apparently Maddie was competing against 18 kids in her division, but Chloe was competing against 42 kids. Kathy starts crying because she heard that one of her students broke her leg. She frantically calls someone at her studio to ask about how she is doing. Melissa yells at Maddie for not cooperating while she is doing her hair. Kathy tells Abby that Vivi has never worn false eyelashes, and Melissa says that Mackenzie has been wearing them since she was 3. At the competition venue, Chloe sits in the audience, watching the numbers before her. She holds both her mother's hand and Paige's hand. She, Maddie and Paige go backstage to get ready for her solo. After she performs, Abby congratulates her and then proceeds to talk about another dancer who was very clean. During awards, Kathy begins to cry because Vivi doesn't want to sit with the other girls. Chloe is announced as a contender for Junior Miss StarQuest, but doesn't win. She is very disappointed, but then wins first place in her division. Christy is very confused because Chloe wasn't entered for a title. The following day, Maddie performs her solo. Chloe and Paige join her backstage to comfort and encourage her. She ends up winning Petite Miss Star Power and the first overall high score. Then Abby takes the girls to rehearse the group number. She keeps singling out Nia and making her dance on her own. Abby tells her that her feet are horrendous. Abby calls Kathy, who is working with Vivi and Mackenzie on their duet. Kathy tries to make some changes, so Abby gets Mackenzie on the phone and tells her not to let Kathy change anything. The next day, the girls get ready for their dances. Kathy tells Vivi that they made a small change and that they shouldn't tell Abby about it. Abby mentions cutting Vivi's hair, but Kathy is not going for it. Abby tells her that when you need to swing your hair out of the way to use the bathroom, it's time for a haircut. After Mackenzie and Vivi's duet, the group rehearses. Christy jokes that they will be arrested because of their daughter's costumes. Holly says it reminds her too much of certain activities involving whips and chains, and that it's a pedophile's dream. She and Christy seriously consider pulling their kids from the dance. Holly thinks that they might be disqualified and says that she hopes no one is filming it to put on YouTube. She was obviously not allowed to break the fourth wall and talk about the production crew and the cameras, because that's clearly a much bigger problem. After the dance, Holly and Christy pull Abby aside and tell her that it was inappropriate. They say that there were people catcalling in the audience. That is horrifying. Why would you catcall or wolf whistle or whatever they were doing at a kid? Why would anyone think that's an appropriate way to respond to a child's dance? When Holly mentioned that near smacking herself was inappropriate, Abby justified it by saying that she couldn't do the turns that everyone else did. Christy threatens to walk off, but knows that Abby will blackball Chloe if she does. Vivi and Mackenzie don't place with their duet, and neither does the group dance. Abby tells the girls that maybe they were deducted for doing too many tricks. The producers do a couple more interviews with the mums, and then everyone gets back on the bus to go home. And with that, we've finished another episode. So I hope you guys have enjoyed learning a lot about Season 1, Episode 2. Once again, read the notes in the description box if you would like to. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.